I don't know about you, but I cannot believe that we are already talking about the end of 2025. What happened? Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my end of the year TBR. Now I've seen a lot of people go through and do 10 books that they're going to be reading in the next less than a month and a half. And I have 10 books in this pile. I don't know if I'm going to get to all of them by the end of the year, especially because I am trying to take it a little easier on my total books read for 2025. However, I did find 10 books that I would really like to get to, at least as many as possible, before the end of the year. The first book that I want to be reading for sure before the end of the year is A Death in Tokyo by Keigo Higashino. I read Malice and Newcomer by him earlier this year and really loved it, and there are currently 4 books translated in the Detective Kaga series by him. And so I've read half of the available works so far, and I really want to continue with A Death in Tokyo. One of the things that I have been loving about Higashino's work is as I was stepping into murder, mystery, and thriller a little bit this last year, I discovered something about myself. Whodunit is an interesting concept for me when it comes to mystery and thriller. However, I like the whodunits just as much, and one of the things that I think Higashino does beautifully is exactly that. He gives you a cast of characters that you get to know, that you are invested in. He's so good at unraveling the why of the story that I have just been absolutely loving his work, and both Malice and Newcomer were incredibly different books, the way that they were structured, the way that he was approaching the mystery, and I just love his style of writing. So I am really excited to get to the 3rd out of 4 books of his Detective Kaga series, and I obviously have a bunch of other books of his on my shelf, but I do want to finish these 4 before I move on to anything else. Next up is a sci-fi that's been on my list for ages, and I cannot wait to read it. And this one is another high priority for the end of the year here. And that is In the Orbit of Sirens by T.A. Bruno. Now, one of the things that is really cool about T.A. Bruno's work is that he actually works for DreamWorks, which is pretty freaking cool. And because of that, the way that he writes, it's very cinematic. It's very easily visualized, and he does a great job of bringing characters to life, specifically alien creatures. And he has these beautiful artwork pieces in the book that he designed and drew himself. And I've heard really good things about this book, and I think it's going to be a great sci-fi read, a little bit of sci-fantasy vibes maybe, which you guys know I really love, and good alien creatures. I've already read a T.A. Bruno sci-fi with Down Below Beyond, and I absolutely loved it, and his alien creatures were so well realized and fleshed out. I absolutely loved it. So I'm really looking forward to starting this trilogy before the end of the year, and this one is also a high priority for me. And don't worry, because I know if I don't hold this book up, I will get comments about it afterwards. Midnight Tides by Steven Erikson, I am planning on at least starting before the end of this year, probably in the next week or so here. One of the things that I have discovered about myself with Malazan that makes it a little bit difficult is this takes so much of my brain space that it is actually hard for me to write while I am reading Malazan, not because it's influencing what I'm writing, but just because it drains that really complicated epic fantasy side of my brain so much that I have a hard time then having the energy to go back into my own work. So that does make it a little bit difficult to move at any sort of speed through this series, but that's okay, and I am not planning on rushing Malazan. I really respect the people that jump in and say, I'm gonna read one of these every month or every other month. I can't commit to that, and I definitely don't want to rush my way through this series, but I am really looking forward to finally reading my first brand new Malazan book to me for over 12 years. It's going to be a great time. I've heard that a lot of people love this one and that it's a little bit more of a cohesive story in the middle of the series, and I'm actually really looking forward to that because Rereading House of Chains was a time, you guys. I really struggled with it, and so I'm looking forward to something fresh and new in the world of Malazan. Moving into some lighter reads, this one's going to take me probably an afternoon to get through, and that is Spy Family Volume 14. This is, I think, not the newest one that's out, but it was earlier this year that this one came out. I'm still enjoying this series. There are definitely a few things that I could do without in terms of some of the side characters. Things that kind of dip a little too uncomfortably into aspects of anime storytelling that I think are mildly inappropriate. But overall, I really love this story. I really love the core family at the heart of this story with the Forgers, Lloyd and Yor and Anya. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how everything finally blows up and comes together with all the secrets that are being kept and all of the espionage that's going on. So I'm looking forward to continuing with Volume 14. Next up is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is also a very high priority for me here at the end of the year. Possibly one of my most anticipated reads of 2025, honestly. I've been really excited to read some of Ishiguro's work, and this will be my first one, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. There are a couple other ones like Buried Giant and The Remains of the Day that I really want to read, but this is the one that I wanted to start with. I've heard really good things about it. I know one of my patrons, Don, recently read it and really loved it, and so this is partially why it's on my list for the end of the year, for sure. But yeah, this is a very high priority. It may even be one of the next books that I read, and I can't wait to finally get a chance to read Ishiguro's writing because it has been a long time coming. Next up, I would like to read The Light Fantastic by Terry Pratchett. I recently read The Color of Magic, which was his first Discworld novel ever, and a lot of people commented that I should follow up pretty quickly with The Light Fantastic after reading that, just because the two of them kind of go back to back together. And this is book 2 in his Wizards series within the Discworld bigger series. And I actually enjoyed Color of Magic more than I thought I was going to. That was the book that everybody kind of says, ooh, this might not be a great starting place. It doesn't really represent what the Discworld becomes in his later work. But I actually thought that there were a lot of the kind of glimmers of what Discworld would become, and I actually really enjoyed the characters. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed the book. So I do intend to continue with The Light Fantastic, hopefully by the end of this year. And that means that I am kind of reading 2 Discworld series simultaneously, the Death Cycle and the Wizards series. And that's fine. I didn't plan it that way, but here we are, and more Pratchett is never a bad thing. So this one is definitely on my list for the end of the year if I can get to it. However, the larger priority for Pratchett reads is finishing the City Watch series, which I absolutely love, and I know you guys are probably sick of me gushing about it this whole last year and a half, but it's honestly become one of my favorite fantasy series of all time, and this is the final book written in the City Watch series. I don't know if I'm ready, you guys. I really don't. I'm really excited to read it. I can't wait to get back with these characters to see what shenanigans they're going to get up to in Snuff. And I've been still absolutely loving the audiobook editions of these, narrated by John Culshaw. And honestly, that's been one of the biggest surprises for me out of all of this, is I enjoy the series in written format a lot, but the audiobooks have just added so much enjoyment, and John Culshaw's narration and performance of the characters has added such a level of enjoyment on top of what's already there, that I've just been having an absolute blast with these, and I'm definitely going to be going back and rereading the series in the near future. But first we have to finish the last City Watch book, and then I'm going to have to figure out how on earth to rank them after that, because I do want to do a video talking about each one of the books. But yeah, getting a little ahead of myself. But Snuff by Terry Pratchett is my most prioritized Pratchett novel for the rest of the year. Next up is a novella by Fonda Lee, Untethered Sky. This is one that I've reached for multiple times this year as kind of a palate cleanser, and it just seemed like it kept getting shuffled off to the side in favor of other bigger books. And I've kind of had it, and I definitely wanted to include a shorter book on my TBR for the end of the year, because I do think that as we wind down down into December, I do find myself reaching for some palette cleansers, some not the giant fantasy books, because I'm usually really busy for the holidays and I'm usually, you know, have a lot of other things going on trying to plan for. So it's nice to just have something that I can reach for and read quickly, and it doesn't take me a month to finish. This is a story of a young woman who I think rides griffins, and I'm really curious to see how Fonda Lee writes a novella that might have a little bit more of a classic fantasy feel than her urban Greenbone saga did. So it's going to be very fascinating to see how she writes in a completely different world with a completely different setup and tone. But I'm really looking forward to checking this out, because I think that writing a really solid novella and telling an intriguing and engaging story within a shorter amount of pages is a really hard thing to do, and Fonda Lee is incredible as a writer anyway, so I'm looking forward to seeing what she does with this. Next up is a book I actually just got in the mail this week. I pre-ordered it shortly after reading the first volume, and that is the novelized version of the Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. Volume 2 just came out, and this is just a fun, bingeable read. I blasted my way through the first volume and just had a great time with it. It's not the deepest literary thing I've ever read, and that's completely fine. It is pure entertainment. It was giving me some of the vibes I was missing after watching the last season of Alice in Borderland. It has a little bit of humor, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. It actually calls out some of the archetypes and tropes of stories like this in a very humorous way, which I really enjoyed. And there's not a ton of character depth yet, but I'm definitely willing to just kind of sit and let that slowly build throughout the books, because I know that this originally was a webtoon. So yeah, without the visual medium, obviously, we are leaning more on the descriptions and the way that the characters are being written in word form as opposed to in visual form. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm really excited to blast through book 2, and the only bummer about this is that I'm going to have to wait longer for the next installment. I'm not actually sure when that's coming out. I would assume early 2026, potentially. But this will be another good palette cleanser in between some of these other reads. And last but not least is another short classic, and that is Cannery Row by John Steinbeck. This has been on my TBR for quite a while, since I asked one of my favorite authors, Steven Erikson, to give me a few books that he would recommend me read just as great examples of literature. And Cannery Row is the last one of the books that he recommended me that I need to read. And I am really in the mood for this kind of a classic. He said that the descriptions within this book are just phenomenal. The way this author creates atmosphere in this kind of historical setting is really brilliant, and I am so looking forward to that, because it's going to be a very different flavor than anything else on this list. And I don't think it's going to be a very long read. It's very, you know, small, easy to read font. It's not a long book, and I just think this is going to be a super, super good read, and I'm going to be taking notes for sure while I'm reading this, because if Steven Erikson says that this book is a masterclass in descriptions and writing and atmosphere, you best believe I'll be taking notes. So this one is the last one of my hopeful TBR for the end of 2025. All right, guys, that is everything from me. I would love to know down in the comments below. I know some of you are mood readers, and if you are, that's completely fine. I hope you mood read 2 5-star reads for the rest of the year. But for those of you that do enjoy having a bit of a guideline, let me know down in the comments below what you are excited to read before the end of the year, and even going into the beginning part of 2026, if you want to drop some of those in the comments as well. If you enjoy my content, please leave a like on the video and subscribe. I'd love to have you hang out on my corner of the internet more often. And check out my description box for all of the important links, including the link to my website where you can find my fantasy books as well. So I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. I hope you are reading some 5-star reads, and I will see you in the next video.